This is absolutely fascinating. The right-wing Wall Street Journal, part of News Corporation, owned by Rupert Murdoch, has put out an op-ed indicating that although Republicans will be taking control of the House in just a few weeks, they are too dim-witted, essentially too stupid to wield power. This is super interesting, not because someone wrote Republicans are kind of dim. Most of us knew that, but because the right-wing editorial board of the Wall Street Journal wrote it. Republican Party masochists, writes the editorial board on Friday. Republican division and disarray on Capitol Hill bode ill for the next Congress. And the entire article is worth reading, but there's a particular article that is interesting. I'll actually start with the paragraph before. Their main demand is so self-defeating, talking about Republicans here. Their main demand is so self-defeating, it could have come from Democratic Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. The dissenters want Kevin McCarthy to concede that any member could call the chair vacant and insist on a vote to replace the sitting speaker. In order to get the votes to become speaker, McCarthy is supposed to weaken himself so much that he wouldn't be able to govern as speaker. Yet, a narrow Republican majority of only 222 to 213 requires a leader who can enforce party discipline. That's how Nancy Pelosi has been able to govern with the mirror image majority in the last 2 years. Too many House Republicans are too dim-witted to understand the uses of power and how to wield it. They'd rather rage against the machine to no useful effect. I don't care who wrote this, and it happens to be the right-wing Wall Street Journal editorial board. It's completely correct and accurate as an assessment of the Republican Party right now. They are so obsessed with rage and anger and fear that they care more about perpetuating, we're going to take down McCarthy. Our focus will be to go after Hunter Biden or to impeach Joe Biden, even if we don't know why. And we're going to make people afraid of the immigrants that Joe Biden's letting in, even though there's really no significant changes to immigration policy from Biden since Trump. This is what it's all about. The rage is what many of the modern MAGA Trumpists used, rage and fear, to get elected in the first place. Last week, we talked about reactionary populism, many of them using reactionary populism, which includes making people angry and making people afraid. That's why they don't have plans or policies. That's why they are totally lacking in policy and a policy platform beyond just stop the Democrats from doing what they want to do or what they would like to do. They were the angry opposition to what was happening in power, Democrats for a while. Now they're going to be in office. They're going to control the House of Representatives. The outrage is all that they have. And so that rage, this is the correct answer. We've seen it for so long now among these people. And many of them, and I've spent time in parts of the country where this is the case, they grew up in a church. I've spent time in rural, as some like to say, I don't say it that way, rural northern Indiana. And people basically go to two places. They go to church and they go to a shooting range. Those are places where you become angry and you become afraid. You're filled with hate, rage, and anger. And you see it firsthand in a lot of these conservative places. And they use fear of immigrants. Members of the Republican Party say, the dangerous immigrants are going to come in. You've got to be afraid of them. So we need nativist immigration policy. We certainly need guns to protect ourselves from them, ignoring the reality that both naturalized, legal, and undocumented immigrants both are less likely to commit crime in the United States than natural-born citizens. And it makes sense. If you know your status is not legal, or you have legal status, but you still see yourself as someone who came here later, you would probably go out of your way to avoid criminality and interactions with police. Widely documented, but yet fear of immigrants. It's in the church. It's part of the narrative around why people need guns. Grievances over perceived injustices. The right loves to say it's the left that does grievance politics. Actually, it's the right. It's the right. Black Lives Matter movement is bad and discriminatory and terrible, and we have a grievance against them and we must fight them. Antifa. I could go on and on. The free speech rights that are being taken away from us, which really aren't being taken away. And then, of course, the use of divisive rhetoric for its own sake. Protect American values, defend the Constitution, defend and restore free speech. Things that are meaningless if you follow the facts on the ground, but that they use to drive these politics. So I believe the Wall Street editorial board is right. These Republicans will be taking control of the House, but they are too dim-witted to really understand how to wield power. This is a good thing for the left, to the extent that they end up just chasing their tails talking about Hunter Biden for 2 years and hopefully accomplishing nothing. And maybe Democrats can get a couple of things done while Republicans are busy trying to impeach Joe Biden.